Okay, good morning, participants, and I welcome all of you to the first session of the day two of this FTP on real estate. The FTP, which is being conducted under the Atal AICTE sponsored scheme. So it gives me a great pleasure in introducing our today's guest of the session, Mr. Aditya Bedekar, who's basically a chartered accountant. He's done his master's in commerce, a PG diploma in foreign exchange and risk management, and a PG diploma in electricity regulations. But most importantly, today he is the managing partner of Mesa Siddhant Infrastructure. He started off working with firms like K. Raheja Corporation in Bombay, Bombay Dyeing also, and today he has started his own firm, working as an entrepreneur for the last 5 years, and as I have already told you, a managing partner of Mesa Siddhant Infrastructure. If you look at his areas of expertise, he has expertise in the area of project management, financial and business analysis, as well as real estate regulatory matters. If you look at his current position, apart from being the managing partner of Mesa Siddhant Infrastructure, he is a member of CREDAI Kolhapur. He is also the co-convener of RERA Working Committee of CREDAI Maharashtra, and he is the member of ICAI RERA Study Group and Task Force formed by the Committee on Economic Commercial Laws and Economic Advisory, CECL and EA of ICAI. If you look at his activities apart from his managing his business, we find that he has been conducting workshops for CREDAI members in different city chapters for awareness on RERA registration procedure, compliances, do's and don'ts. He has also prepared analysis of MahaRERA rulings for circulation to the CREDAI office bearers and members. He advises real estate developers on various provisions of the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act and rules. He has also prepared representations for submission to the state central government, suggesting suitable amendments and modifications required to be made in the RERA Act and rules for effective implementation. So I'm sure you will all agree with me that we have a very just, eminent, and a distinguished speaker with us who will be speaking to us on RERA. So, sir, over to you. I hand over the mic to you so you can start off with your presentation.
Sure.
Just a minute, he'll be joining. We asked him to be there with us for 2 minutes. He'll be joining in just 2 minutes. He's already there with us.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. This is my first session in today's session, so it is my duty to keep you fresh throughout my session. The topic which is given to me is RERA and real estate management. So I will speak predominantly on RERA. Real estate management, I covered some of the aspects of real estate management. So my basically idea is to give a gist of RERA provisions to you. Also take you through the important provisions of the Act, how it is going to benefit the whole real estate sector, and then some of the issues which real estate needs to be addressed by the government and the policymakers. So I would start my presentation. Just a moment, the screen is getting shared. So meanwhile, you all must be knowing that real estate industry plays a very crucial role in the overall economic development, and It basically is the fourth. Just a moment. So this is the flow of the presentation which I'm going to present you today. Uh, you're able to view the screen?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's okay.
So sorry for the small hiccup. Uh, so this is basically the presentation flow. This is the importance of real estate industry. I'll give you some bullet points. How the dynamics of the industries are changing. What is the business process? Then the introduction of the RERA and its reasons why the RERA Act came into picture. Important provisions of the Act, the promoters and customers' responsibilities, the benefits of the RERA, the state-wise progress of RERA. Then, as I said, the issues we need to be, the policymaker need to address. What are the opportunities that the professionals are do have in this post-RERA scenario? So, real estate industry's importance, you are very much aware that it ranks among the third of 14 major sectors in terms of direct, indirect, or induced effect on all sectors of the economy. It is the second largest employment provider in the country, next only to agriculture. Uh, it it is estimated that real estate sector or the construction sector would contribute almost 13% of the country's GDP by 2025. Uh, it supports around 250 ancillary industries. There was an initiative by the government of Maharashtra. They what they did is that they reduced the stamp duty rate on the sale from currently earlier, which was 6% to 3% for 31st of December, and from 1st of January to 31st of March, it will be 4%. So when it was a 3% duty, lot many people they took the benefit of this and uh, took their dream house or office. So it in turn has helped many industries which were suffering from post-COVID recovery. So it has given a like a shot in the arm, so that uh, the demand increases rapidly in a short span of time. So you can imagine, like if 250 ancillary industries are dependent directly or indirectly on real estate, what the impact would be on the livelihood of people who are working there. Uh, Even the government's mission of housing for all, it is expected that it will fetch almost $1.3 trillion investments in the housing sector by 2025. Uh, Again, new thing is that the emergence of nuclear families, the rapid urbanization which is happening, rising household income, which will be the driving forces behind all space of real estate, which is real estate, residential, commercial, retail, or even hospitality. If you see the changing dynamics of the real estate sector, earlier, initially, that at the very initial stages, the landowner used to be the developer. He used to develop his land, sell the flats or the units to third parties. As and when uh, the scale was increasing, then there was a difference between the landowner and developer. So there was A was a landowner and B was a developer. So they used to come together and develop a land. And as the scale again went up, there was a need of finance. So there was a landowner, there was a developer, and there is a financer. Now this new era which is coming, where the investors are there who can invest in a land, and they become a landowner. Then there is a developer who will develop the project. Then there is a financer. So financer could be investor, a bank who funds your project, uh, or a cooperative housing society, cooperative finance companies. So they fund your project, and there is a PMC, the project management consultants, who will actually construct and build your project. So the dynamics are changing of the business. Even if you see the new regulations which have come in place in last 5 years, the Real Estate and Regulation Act 2016, which came into effect from 1st of May 2017, the Goods and Service Tax again 1st of July 2017, uh, Benami Transactions and Amendment Act 2016, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Act 2019. So a lot of new regulations have come into picture which were not there uh, like 10 years back, or some of those were there but those regulations were not enforced. So if you the effect of this is that uh, India's real estate transparency index, the India uh, has basically it has come on the 34th rank now because of all these new regulations. The transparency has increased and there is a good environment for investment. So the transparency index has of India has increased. If you see the real estate development process, it's a typical process. So basically, what you do is first you identify the land parcel. Then what you do is that you verify the title of the land, like where the who is the owner of the land, whether he has a clear title, whether it is mortgage, whether there is any litigations, which zone the land is, whether you can construct there or not. So you do the all the title verification. You do after this you do the market survey, feasibility working, like what kind of a product will work there, what like if it is a residential project, what size of the unit should you should build, what should be the ticket size, how the financials will.
जरा टेक्निकल इशू आहे.
स्टॉप करून परत पार्टिसिपंट्सना लिखताना
Okay.
एक्झिट करून
कॅमेरा
Hello, when is the session likely to start?
कॅमेरा
Once again, sorry for the technical glitch. So if you see the real estate development business process, no?
Just announce. 5 मिनिटात चालू आहे. पेन ड्राईव्ह.
होय. Hello. Yeah. So we were discussing the changing dynamics of the sector. That after RERA, GST, Dynamic Transaction Provision, Prohibitive Amendment Act, and the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Act, there's a lot of transparency which has come into the sector, because of which India's rank in global real estate transparency has increased to 34. If you see the development, real estate development process, typically what we do is that first we identify the land parcel, then there's a title verification of the land, who is the owner of the land, whether there are any litigations, whether the property is mortgaged, what zone it is in. So we verify everything. Then we do the market survey, like feasibility report we prepare, like what kind of a product will work there, whether we do commercial, whether we do residential. So we do the market research, and based on the market research, we prepare a preliminary feasibility report whether the project will be viable or not. Once we do that, what we do is that we go to the designing stage, we design the project, we get the plan approval, then we do the detailed costing and the schedule of the project, like how much the cost we are going to incur to complete this project, and what is the likely schedule of the project. Then once we do that, then there is a marketing tie-up, financial tie-up, like you have a bank finance, where you can avail the bank finance. At least not avail if you can just get the sanction ready. Like
Sir, I'm interrupting you. Sir, just 1 minute. Participants are not able to hear you. They're saying the voice is very low. So just a minute. Just a minute, participants.
presentation for the next
We are rectifying the issue. Just bear with us for 2 minutes, participants.
flow of presentation पे कुठल्या slide ला
Uh,
बघूया. फक्त next म्हटलं तर
business process, you can just next.
Just tell me next, I will.
Yeah, you can just, we are almost come to the third stage. You can click, yeah, next.
Is that okay, sir?
Yeah. So, am I audible now? Hope so. So I'll start resume the presentation. So the process we were discussing about developing the real estate development, like once we do the market survey feasibility report, we go for designing and approval of the project. Next, please. Next, please. Then we do the detailed costing, the scheduling the project. Then we do market and financial tie-up of the project. Then we go in for actual execution of the project. Once we complete the project, what we do is that we hand over the keys, society formation, and conveyance of the land, and then we basically take out the profit. But in the whole process, this is basically a standard, typical process which real estate development needs to. Every real estate development goes through this process. But what used to happen is that some of the maybe the fly-by-night operators or some not so serious players, they used to jump in between, like identifying the land parcel, then they directly used to jump to take out the profit. Like what you used to happen is that you identify the land, you take the project, you do the basic plans of the project, you market the project, and you before even buying the land or before even the approvals, and then you take the money and you just fly. So to basically to control everything, the government was very serious about how do the government plays a vital role in safeguarding the interest of consumers, and a lot of issues were happening in some of the sectors, some of the areas of the cities where people were getting cheated, and the government was giving a serious thought on this. So considering all the problems, the government came up with this new act, which is the Real Estate and Regulation Act. So the act was, some of the provisions of the act were enacted on 26th of March, but the act came in full-fledged from 1st of May 2017. So basically why the act came into picture. So to regulate and promote the real estate sector, then there was the sale should happen in an efficient and transparent way. So that was the main purpose. Third main purpose was to protect the interest of consumers, which is basically a core of real estate regulation act. Then speedy dispute redressal, because if there is any dispute between the buyer and the seller, and if he goes to the civil court, there was likely to be there was a chance that the legal battle will go on for a number of years and the justice will be delayed. So there is a speedy dispute redressal mechanism is there in this act. Then establishing the appellate tribunal. So these were the main important reasons why the act came into picture. So if we segregate all these in different baskets, so the reasons why objects and reasons of the Real Estate Act was to ensure accountability. Like the person who is constructing or who is developing a project, he should be accountable for all his acts. Then infuse transparency and reduce frauds and delays. Like if the project is approved, then only he can register with RERA, and then only he can market the project. So there is a transparency. You can view all their approvals and everything on RERA's website. So there is a transparency which has come into picture, and because of this, the chances of customers getting cheated have reduced dramatically. Then introduction of professionalism and standardization. Uh, the Act has given a very important role to various professionals like architects, engineers, chartered accountants, because they need to certify the percentage completion work, and on that basis only the money can be drawn from the RERA account. So, and once the professionals come into picture, there will be standardization also, there will be improvement in quality, there will be improvement in keeping the records of the business. So the main purpose also is that to introduce professionalism and standardization in the real estate sector. Then the fourth was to establish symmetry of information, like you have your RERA website updated every three months, like every quarter you need to update yours. So you have your updates about the project on a continuous basis. So there is a symmetry of information, and also what you propose is only what you can project. So if you are not planning to build something and which you are projecting, so there is a provision, there are provisions in the Act which could be which through which you can get a penalty. Then impose responsibilities on both promoter and allottees. So so there are certain sections of the Act which clearly specifies the responsibilities of the promoters and allottees. I have covered those responsibilities in subsequent slides, so we'll discuss in detail as we move ahead. Then establish a regulatory oversight mechanism, like because you update your projects every 3 months, so regulatory authority is keeping an eye on the development of the project. So if you don't update in 3 months, you get an email from the regulatory authority that you have not updated your project, so please update. So there is a regulatory oversight of the mechanism book placed in this RERA Act. Then, as I said, a fast track dispute resolution mechanism, because the RERA authority needs to dispose of the complaint within 60 days. So there is a window within which the customer or a developer can get a solution through MahaRERA or RERA authority of the respective states. Then promote good governance and create investor confidence. So once you have all this transparency, the professionalism and everything coming to picture, so there is a likely chance that investor confidence will boost and they will invest in this sector in a more proactive way. So I will now start with the provisions of the Act. There are 10 chapters in the Act, and divided basically the 10 chapters. Each chapter covers a different part of the Act. So total 92 sections are there. The important sections are basically the 3 to 8, then 9 to 10, 11 to 18, 19, then offenses and penalty. I have covered important sections one by one, like which you need to know as a general public. Everybody needs to know what are the provisions, main provisions of the Act, because you don't need to know the finance, accounts, audit reports of the RERA authority, but you need to know the crux of the Act, which is basically the reason why the Act came into picture. So the next please. Yeah. So important section, the first section is section 3, which mandates what type of projects do require RERA registration. So if the land parcel is more than 500 square meters, or there are number of units in the project are more than 8, then the project needs to be registered with RERA authority. There are certain exemptions in this, but like the project was completed before the Act came into picture, or there is a redevelopment without any new unit coming into picture. So these kind of projects are given exemption. So section 3 stipulates what kind of a project needs to be registered under RERA. And there is also a provision in the Act that no project can market, advertise without RERA registration. So if there is a project which are crossing these limits, and those projects are still not registered with RERA but still marketing, so there is a provision in the Act that under this section, the promoter can be forced to register the project, or you can complain with the RERA authority. Then section 4 talks about the what are the documents those are required to register the project. So you basically name a document and it is there in the list. Like I have not given the total list, but I'll just give you a broad idea about what are the things that are required. You need to upload all the documents related to your project, like a plan sanction, the commencement certificate, the non-agriculture conversion, the title search report of the project, the basically the carpet areas of all the units, then number of units in the project, how many units are sold, how many units are unsold. Then you need to give the professionals who are linked to your project, like the architect, engineer, chartered accountant. You need to give names of those professionals also in the while uploading the project details. You need to give what are the amenities you are providing and what percentage of work you have completed so far. So you need to give amenities. So you cannot project an amenity which you are not planning to, or you don't foresee to implement it. So if there is an amenity which in the on the brochure but which is not disclosed on the rarity, you can you can tell it to the promoter that this amenity is not disclosed on the RERA website. So there are a lot of disclosure. You need to also give a details about your RERA account to RERA bank account to the authority. So section 4 covers what all the documents you need to provide while registering your projects, and barring few, most of these documents are available on internet or a RERA website, so that you can go to website and you can view the project's details. Even you need to disclose the litigations which are going on this land or the project construction. Then section 7 talks about the revocation of registration. Once the project is registered, what are the provisions under which the RERA authority can revoke the registration? Like if the promoter is not following the provisions of the act, or violates the terms and conditions of approval, or involved in any unfair practice. So the project's registration can be revoked under these circumstances. Next, please. Then functions of and duties of promoter. As I said, every quarter, like every 3 months, you need to update the progress of the project, like how much percentage of the work is complete, how much percent of the stilt is complete, how much percentage of the brickwork or your RCC work is complete. So every percentage you need to define or give there, so that the customer who has bought a flat in your project, he will get to know the status of the project. Then on every advertisement, you need to mention the RERA registration number. That is compulsory. And there are certain cases or case laws where MahaRERA, in Maharashtra, there is a MahaRERA. MahaRERA has imposed heavy fines on some promoters who have not disclosed RERA registration number on their advertisement. So RERA registration number mentioning on the advertisement is a must. Then you need to disclose your plans, schedule to the customers, obtain completion certificate. You need to maintain essential services till handover of the building to the society happens. You need to form the society, pay all outgoing till the physical possession you give it to the society, and not to mortgage the flat once the agreement for sale is executed with the customer. Then the agreement to sell can be cancelled only as per the agreement of sale terms and conditions, not otherwise. Then section 12, which talks about the veracity of the advertisement. Like if in my advertisement or in my brochure, if I am showing let's take an example of a swimming pool. I am providing an amenity of a swimming pool, and on my brochure I have shown a swimming pool which is of an Olympic size. And when client comes to the site and he sees a small kids swimming pool is provided. So basically, this is basically a false commitment which I am providing, which RERA authority prohibits such kind of a false commitment or incorrect statement. So section 12 talks about this, that there is an obligation on the promoter if a customer buys a property from you based on the advertisement or brochure or any marketing material, and if he incurs any loss due to this false or incorrect statement, then whatever the loss he incurs, the promoter needs to compensate that loss. Then section 13 talks about the registration of the document. There are many cases where people pay money almost 100% or 90%, and even the agreement is not registered in their name. So section 13 mandates that you cannot take more than 10% of the amount from the customer unless and until you have executed a registered agreement for sale with the client. And the agreement for sale should be in line with the draft which is given by the authority. So what happens, like you cannot take more than 10% before you register. So it is compulsory for a developer to register the agreement first and take the rest of the money. Obviously, there would be some exceptional cases where the buyer is an NRI and he cannot come to India to register the agreement. So in certain cases, if there is a mutual agreement between the buyer and seller, in such cases that amount can be taken more than 10%. But in normal cases, the 10% you cannot take more than 10% of the amount. Next. Then section 14 talks about you need to develop your project according to the sanction plans. If there needs to be any changes in the plans and fixtures, it can be done with the consent of the allottees. If there is any change we need to do which is not disclosed to the allottee, then you need a 2/3 allottee's consent before revising any plan. Then there is a provision for defect liability of 5 years. I have covered it separately, so I will not take your time here, because there is a defect liability, like once you complete the project. So it is not that your responsibility gets over at that time. You need to see to it that after completion, 5 years, there are no defects in the project. There are defects. What kind of defects and everything subsequently we'll discuss. So section 15 talks about in case the promoter having some financial problem or any other problem, and he wants to transfer this project to somebody else. So it cannot be done without a consent of 2/3 of allottees and the authority, RERA authority's consent. So tomorrow, if there is a company which is running developing a project, so promoters cannot sell shares to third parties without a consent of the authority and 2/3 of allottees. Obviously, there are certain exemptions, like taker of companies due to some government orders, or there is a succession because of the demise of a promoter, his legal heirs coming into his shoes. So these are the exemptions where consent is not required. But in general cases, where there is a transfer of promoter, the consent is a must. Then section 16 talks about the title insurance, like title and construction insurance of the project. Currently, the title insurance is at a very nascent stage, and the cost is also very high. It also excludes many other the title related risk. So it is not yet very famous product in the market. But there are construction insurance available of all majority of non-life insurance companies. Almost all companies have a construction insurance. So against the whatever the damages or everything happens to the site, it can be covered under the construction insurance. Next, please. Then transfer of title. So there are a lot of societies in areas like Mumbai or Pune or other cities also, where the building is complete, people are occupying the building, but the land is still in the name of the developer, even after, let's say, 40-50 years. So conveyance is not happening after so many of years. So government has given now under section 17 a stipulated time period within which the transfer of title or a conveyance needs to happen. Now, here I would like to elaborate in further. Like title can be transferred. The conveyance happens in Maharashtra in two ways. either you form a cooperative housing society and then transfer the land in the name of the cooperative housing society, or you can, under the Apartment Act, Maharashtra Apartment Ownership Act, you can form an apartment association. So every owner of the unit, he gets a proportionate ownership of the common areas and land. So both are conveyance. So you can do both the type of conveyances as per your convenience, but there is a time limit within which you need to do it. Then the most important section of the Act is Section 18, which talks about the delay. So what we did, we had analyzed some of the Maharera orders. Almost 60% of the cases were related to delay in possession. Sometimes the delay is by 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So 15 is the most important section of the Act, which talks about, because you can specifications, you can agree to whatever other things you can mutually agree to. But if there is a delay happening, there is a loss to the buyer in terms of the interest he pays to the bank. Plus, if he's staying on the rent he pays to the landlord. So there's a double loss to the buyer. So to take care of that, Section 18 is introduced, which talks about if there is a delay in handing over the possession of the unit, then the developer needs to compensate to the buyer for the interest. Again, the interest is stipulated. It is SBI MCLR, marginal cost of lending rate, plus 2%. And in case the buyer wants to withdraw from the project, like he doesn't want to continue, like he wants to just exit, then the developer wants to refund his money along with the interest. So these are very important provisions. Then Section 19 talks about the rights and duties of the allottees. Like there are Section 11 to 18 are the duties of the promoter. When I give lectures to my fellow developers, my presentation's title is RERA यानी 11 से 18. So if you read all those 11 to 18 sections thoroughly and you imbibe the provisions, you will not make any default, or you will not be under the Maharera authority will not look after you if you take care of all this 11 to 18 sections properly. So Section 19 talks about the rights and duties of the allottee. Basically, the obligations of the promoters are the right of the allottees. So to take the information, get the sanction plan copy, know the schedule, stage-wise schedule, claim possession, claim refund are all the rights of the allottees. Then in duties, he needs to make payment within timeline. So in case even allottee fails to make the payment within timeline, he needs to pay the interest. This interest is also SBI MCLR plus 2%. So there is basically a synchronous provisions which are there in the Section 18 and 19. So a developer cannot ask for 24% interest from the buyer and pays only 10% interest if it delays. So which used to happen earlier. It is at par with for the both. Like if developer delays, he will pay SBI MCLR plus 2%. If buyer delays in payment, he will also pay SBI MCLR plus 2%. Then buyer needs to participate in formation of a society. He needs to take a physical possession of the flat. He needs to participate in conveyance. These are all the duties of the allottees. Next, please. Then Section 32 is basically talks about the functions of the authority to promote real estate sector. What are the things the authority can do? They can make the recommendations to the government for creating a single window systems for approvals. They can create a robust grievances redressal cell against the acts and omission of the planning authority, like municipal corporations officials. If somebody is not getting a permission in time, he can go and complain to the authority, and authority will take a cognizance of it, and then authority will give an order. So this grievances redressable mechanism is yet not operational in Maharashtra, but we are in fact asking government to form it as early as possible. Then to encourage investment in real estate sector, encourage grading of the project according to the compliances. So that is also functions of the authority. Then section 34 is again to maintain the website, maintain the details of the promoters, disclose the documents which are provided by the promoters. These are the functions given under section 34. Section 37, authority can give directions to allottees, to agents, to promoters. Next, please. Then these are the offenses and penalties provisions. Section 59, like suppose a project needs to be registered, but it is not registered and still marketing the project to the third parties, then the violation, the continuous violation of it would cost up to 10% of the estimated cost of the project, which is a huge amount. Then non-compliance with the orders of the related to registration, which can be a cost as well as an imprisonment. Then providing false information while making application, while applying to the RERA authority, you give some false information. Then there is a 5%, up to 5% of estimated cost of the project. Then you don't comply with the act, rules and provisions. Again, there is a 5% penalty provision, up to 5%. Then non-compliance with the order of the authority, 5%. Non-compliance with the order of the appellate tribunal, there is a 10% penalty, as well as there is an imprisonment provision. Then there is a compounding provisions also, like in case imprisonment you don't want to, you can pay the penalty and you can save from imprisonment. So these are the offenses and penalties provisions mentioned in the act. Next, please. Then these three are important sections. All these three come under the miscellaneous provisions, but these are very important. First is section 79, which talks about the bar of jurisdiction. Like the civil code has no jurisdiction to entertain any matter which the authority or adjudicating officer or appellate tribunal has empowered. So a matter which is related to real estate act or related to real estate projects, and which is covered under the sections which I mentioned. So a civil code cannot entertain those appeals. Then if there is an order given by the any authority or appellate tribunal, the civil code cannot give injunction against this order. So this is very important provision. Section 88 talks about applicable of other laws not barred. Like if there is any another provisions or any acts in the picture, like in Maharashtra, MOFA is there, Maharashtra Ownership of Flats Act. So certain provisions of MOFA are still applicable if those are not conflicting with the provisions of the act. Section 89 talks about the acts to have overriding effect. If there are certain provisions in other act which are overriding this RERA act, then RERA will have an upper hand against this. So these are three important provisions of the act, which is mentioned related to bar of jurisdiction. Other acts will not have, other acts will not be barred, and if there is any overriding effect, then RERA will have upper hand. Next, please. So while explaining the important provisions, I mentioned about the section 7, which talks about the revocation of registration. Like project is registered, how it can be revoked. Why Maharashtra can or a RERA authority can revoke it. First is defaulting anything, doing anything which is required by the act. Second, if the promoter violates terms and conditions of the approval, like if there is a plans are sanctioned and if he's constructing which is not sanctioned, and if somebody complains, then the authority can issue a show cause notice and cancel the registration. Then the promoter is involved in any unfair practice, or there are any irregularities, or promoter involved in any fraudulent practices. If the authority finds any particular reason on this, they can issue a show cause notice, and then even if authority, somebody doesn't file a complaint, but authority in their knowledge, they come to know about any of such discrepancies, even authority on suo motu can issue a show cause notice. Next, please. Then what is unfair trade practice or unfair practices? So unfair practices are given under subsection 1 of section 7. Basically falsely representing that the service are of a particular standard or grade, representing that the promoter has approval or affiliation which such promoter does not have, or makes a false or misleading representation concerning the services, which I said, like if I am providing a particular service and it is not, which is I'm giving on site, which is there mentioned on the agreement, or which is mentioned there in the brochure, then I am indulging in unfair practices, and anybody can complain against this. So this, under these provisions, the authority can revoke the registration. Next, please. Then defect liability, very important provision, because defect liability continues even after the project is complete. Like what kind of a defects are covered in the defect liability? Is there basically a structural defect in the project, a defect in the workmanship or quality of services? All these defects are covered under section 14. So if these any of these kind of defects the buyer comes to his knowledge, then he can go to the promoter and ask to rectify it. I just need to clarify one thing, is that these are the defects and these are not the maintenance, routine maintenance. There is a difference between routine maintenance and defect. Like suppose there is a lift, the lift needs to be maintained routinely. So if it is not maintained routinely and if the lift stops, it is not the problem of the developer. But if the developer has given a lift which is of at a substandard quality, then it is a defect of the quality of service or the product. So there is a difference between the maintenance and the defect. So we need to be very clear about this, and this defect needs to be rectified within 30 days. And in case the promoter cannot rectify this defect, there is a provision in the Act to compensate against these defects. Next. So what are the quarterly updates promoter needs to do? Like provide the up-to-date numbers of the apartments sold or plots sold, up-to-date list of the number of garages booked, up-to-date list of the approvals taken. If there is any pending approvals, you need to update those. You need to give the status of the project. Like as I said earlier, if you have constructed 3 slabs in 1 quarter, and in the next 1 quarter you have completed another 2 or 3 slabs, so you need to update those details on MahaRERA website. Then such other documents which the MahaRERA authority or any RERA authority will specify, you need to give those details every quarter. There is one more new addition which has come in place in Maharashtra. There is a quality audit certificate, assurance certificate, which also needs to be updated every quarter on MahaRERA website. This quality certificate basically talks about the material used in the site is as per the IS standard. The tests have been taken and the test reports are maintained at the site. So this quality certification is also needs to be updated every quarter on the MahaRERA website. Next slide. So we broadly covered the main important provisions of the Act. Out of these 92 sections, we covered main sections which are apart from registration under section 3, documents required under section 4, then revocation under section 7. So there are responsibilities of the promoter mentioned under section 11 to 18, responsibility of the buyer under section 19, then penalty provisions section 59 and other sections, subsections. So if we summarize all these provisions, how it has impacted or how it has improved the responsibilities of the promoters, so it has got a financial discipline, because what happens, there is a provision under section 4 of the Act that whatever the amount is collected from the buyer, 70% of that amount needs to be deposited in a separate bank account, which is a RERA account. Now that withdrawal from that separate account can be done only on the basis of the percentage completion of the project. And how that percentage is defined, it is based on the certificate of the engineer, architect, and chartered accountant. In Maharashtra, MahaRERA has specified 3 forms. Form number 1, which is architect gives. Form number 2, which an engineer gives. Form number 3, which a chartered accountant gives. So I'll just brief you about these 3 certificates because these are 3 certificates are very important. Those I have not given the picture of those certificates because those are very long certificates, and I just don't want to just scroll through the provisions. But I will give you a summary of the main important points in those certificates. Section form number 1, which is the engineer certificate, what it specifies is that it is divided into 2 parts: the cost of the building and cost of the common amenities. Like how much is the estimated cost of the construction of the building, how much the cost according to the site development has incurred, and how much is balance, and the percentage of it. Then how much estimated cost of the common amenities, how much is incurred as per the estimate of the engineer, and how much is the balance. So sorry, I am beg your pardon. Form number 1 is of architect. By mistake I explained you form number 2. So architect gives a percentage completion of each of the activity of the building and the common areas. How much percentage work is complete. So there is no financial or numbers in architect certificate. He only certifies as per his best knowledge or his judgment the percentage completion. In engineer gives the estimated cost and estimated incurred cost. And form number 3 is a chartered accountant certificate. Is based on the architect and engineer certificate. How much is the estimated cost of the project and how much is cost incurred as per the books of account of the promoter. So there is a 3-level scrutiny of the project which happens, and after this 3-level scrutiny, the promoter can withdraw the amount from this RERA account. So there is a financial discipline which has come into picture, which was never, like, you know, earlier you were not asked by anyone to withdraw money. Like you can take money and you can route it anywhere you want, but now there is a restriction. There is a compulsory interest payment, as I explained, SBI MCLR plus 2% in case of a delay in the project position. Second important thing which has happened is the transparency, because you need to mention the web on your all advertisement, the website address of the authority and your RERA registration number. So anyone can go to MahaRERA's website and check your project details. So that has a lot of like earlier, what used to happen is that you used to get your property or plans at the time of agreement to sell only. Like you just need to sign, and along with that agreement, there were plans attached to it. So, but now even before going to the site, you can view the project details, sanction plans and everything you can view it on the web. So there is a lot of transparency which has come into picture. Then you can go and ask for the sanction plans, stage-wise construction schedule from the promoter. Then there is a carpet area which is defined in the act. So across India, there were very different concepts through which the apartment was sold. So now after the RERA, there is a common platform which has come, which is the carpet area. So, and the carpet area is defined under the act, and which is same carpet area. You go to Tamil Nadu, the carpet area would be the definition of carpet area is same. You go to Haryana or New Delhi, the carpet area definition is the same. So there is a clarity of thought about the how much area, carpet area you're getting. Though there will be additional areas like balconies area, terraces will be there, but carpet area needs to be mentioned in the agreement. And I'll just brief you about the carpet area. Carpet area is whatever inside your external walls, including your internal partitions, columns, everything covered under carpet area. So carpet area is defined. So there is a transparency about the area you are getting. Then in case, as I said, in case you want to, the promoter wants to modify or change the plans, which are not earlier disclosed to the allottees. Then two-third of allottees, consent of the two-third allottees is required. But in case the developer has already disclosed all his plans, how the project will come up, how many buildings will be there, what stories of building will be there, then in such cases the consent would not be required. Next, please. Then accountability. This is the most important thing, because you need to obtain title and construction insurance. Then you need to commit possession time, because earlier the agreement used to happen like 3 years from the agreement date, 4 years from the agreement date. But now you need to commit the date, like you want to complete the, if you are planning to complete the project by 31st of December 2023, you need to give that date to the authority. You need to give a declaration affidavit to the authority that you will complete the project within that time, and you need to mention that date, that date or before that to the buyer. So there is accountability. Then you need to maintain essential services, like suppose the building is complete, then people are yet to occupy the building, and all the society formation and everything is in the process. It is the promoter's responsibility to run the essential services like water, electricity of the common areas, security. Though he can recover that amount from the buyers, but he need to maintain those or run those essential services. Then form a society or association once 51% of the allottees have booked the flat. Initiate the process of formation of the association or society. Then execute conveyance deed within 3 months of the OC, occupation certificate. Then defect liability. Then all outgoing taxes until the physical possession of the real estate project is. So there is accountability of the for each and every thing which the promoter does. He is accountable for it. Then there are compliances. As I said, quarterly compliances are there. Every 3 months, the promoter needs to update the project details. And he to upload the quality assurance certificate also. After the completion of the financial year, he needs to give a audit report to RERA authority that all his withdrawals within last whatever happened in the previous financial year are as per the certificates given by the these 3 engineer, architect, and chartered accountant. So and all these withdrawals are as per the given procedure and everything. So this audit report needs to be provided to the authority. So the compliance level has gone up. Next, please. Then customer protection. The core of the act, basically agreement to sell should be in line with the model agreement. It cannot be a one-sided agreement. So there will be, it should be a mutual beneficial agreement for both the parties. Both the parties' rights should get protected under this agreement. Then the promoter cannot accept more than 10% of the amount unless he registered the agreement to sell. Then there is a defect liability of 5 years. Then in case the promoter gives any false commitment or statement in his advertisement, then the buyer incurs loss, then he needs to be compensated. Then complete the project according to the sanction plans. Not to transfer the ownership of the project without the consent of the allottees or the authority, and the authority, not all. The promoter can cancel the allotment or agreement only as per the terms and conditions of the agreement. And once the flat is sold, the buyer or the promoter cannot remortgage this project, this flat to any third party to raise a finance. So these are the things which are placed for protecting the interests of the customers. Next, please. Then what are the customers' responsibilities? We talked about the promoter's responsibilities. Now we'll talk about the customers' responsibilities. First, responsibility to make necessary payments within the specified timeline. Pay all the outgoings on time. Then pay interest in case he delays in making the payment of the installment. Then he should participate in formation of the association or a society or cooperative society, housing society of the allottees. He should take a physical possession within 2 months of occupation certificate. He cannot wait for perpetually to take the possession. In very, very rare cases this happens, but there is a provision in the act, and he should participate in a conveyance date procedure. So these are the responsibilities which are cast on customers or allottees also. Next, please. How the RERA has benefited developers and customers. First thing which has happened is that because after the RERA, many casual operators are they've gone out of the business. Like they don't want to run their project in such a restricted or compliant manner. So those people are out of the business. So there are less competitors, and so there's the elimination of casual workers, casual operators. Now, what used to happen with these casual operators is that they have very basically like in CREDAI members have a code of conduct. We have our own customer redressal forum. So every CREDAI member rigorously follows the code of conduct which is given by the CREDAI. But if someone else who's just running the project because he just have fancy ideas about the real estate, so he does not bother about the quality. He may not. I will not blame all, but some of them could be. They will not bother about the quality. They will not bother about the customer facilitation. They will not bother about the timely delivery. And a single such case basically puts a big risk on the overall reputation of the industry. So all these casual operators will go out of this business. Then before starting the project, you have everything in ready. You have cost analysis ready, schedule ready. You have all these consultants with you. So there is a lot of preparedness will happen much before the execution of the project. So you will be able to understand the business requirements, fund requirement well in advance, so that it will not happen that you start a project and you will get stuck up in between. Then there is a potential for driving standardization and professionalism in the sector, because there are certification are there. So all these three professionals will be involved in a project. So there are chances that there will be professionalism and standardization which will come into picture. Then there is a greater visibility into the developer's delivery performance, because on your RERA website, you can also disclose your past projects. So in case I have completed all my last projects, whatever the projects I have done in a timely manner, and I give those projects details on the RERA website, the customer is who is viewing my project, and if he sees that I have completed these many projects within this much of time, so he will have a better confidence on me, and I will get a benefit out of it. Then higher investment in the sectors will come. Then how it will benefit to the customers? The customers, because there are so many restrictions under Section 18, there is a delay and everything. He can get the delivery of the project in given timeline. There is a safeguard of investment, because 70% of your money goes to a RERA account and withdrawal is restricted. So there is a safeguard of the money which the customer pays. There is a defect liability period also of 5 years. So you don't get any product which is of inferior quality. So you can always go and question the developer about the defects. Then there is a improved transparency. So there is a balance because of the balance buyer seller agreement. There is an improved transparency. So it is not a agreement will not be a one-sided agreement. It will be a balance agreement. Then fast dispute resolution. As I said, within 60 days, the RERA authority needs to give an order on the application or a complaint which is filed by the customer or a developer. So there is a fast dispute redressal mechanism is there. Then greater visibility. So while going and booking a flat, you go to the website of the RERA authority, you check the project details, you check the developer's track record, and then you can go and see the site. So you are prepared you're well prepared before going on the site. So, and your questions are already ready. So it will not happen that you go to the site and then you think about the project and you come back and then you have a questions that you will regret that, okay, I did not ask this. You can go and go to the Vera website first, check the details project. You have your questions ready. You go to the site, you ask those questions, you satisfy your questions are satisfactorily answered, you can think about the investing. So, and uh, even the promoter will be also very happy that you have actually taken a uh, efforts and gone to the RERA website and checked all the details. So he will be very much happy to answer all your questions. Next, please. Now I will talk about the progress, how all the states are progressing on the RERA front. Uh, 34 states have notified RERA rules. So because there is a central act and each and every state needs to form notify their own rules, which will be applicable to the projects within those states. So 34 states have and United Territories have formed or notified their RERA rules. Then uh, in 30 states, union territories, there is a regulatory authority. In 25 out of this, 25 have a regular authority. In 5 states, there is an interim authority. In 24 states, there is a real estate appellate tribunal. Like in case there is an order of the authority and you want to challenge that order, you can go to RERA appellate tribunal. So in 24 states, there is a RERA appellate tribunal already in place. Now 26 states have their own websites under RERA. Like as I mentioned earlier, the website where you can go and check the details of the project, those 26 states have already their websites are up and running. Till date, like till October 10, 2020, given the source of this information, almost 56 projects were registered and 43,300 real estate agents were registered. Over 54,900 complaints have been resolved by the real estate regulatory authorities. Out of this 56,000, I take a pride in telling this that Maharashtra has almost more than 25,000 registered projects. So out of the pan India 56,000, almost half of it in Maharashtra. A lot of credit goes to the Maharashtra authority. In next slide, I have given the state-wise registered projects. Next, please. I'm sure this presentation will be with you, so I will not read each and every state and the number. But in the first, you will see Gujarat has highest number, almost 7,500 projects registered under Gujarat, which in the subsequent slide, we have, next please, the Karnataka, Kerala. So in this, you will see 25,190 are Maharashtra, projects registered in Maharashtra. Karnataka has 3,600. So Gujarat, Maharashtra is on the forefront of implementation of the RERA. Then Gujarat, then Karnataka, then UP is there. Telangana is also picking up. MP is also picking up. So lot of love initiatives by the each state is taking to make it more buyer friendly and protecting the interest of the buyer. They are taking a lot of efforts. So the current figures of Maharashtra I have given here. I have taken it from the Maharera's website. Maharera currently 28,020 promoter, like number of registrations are there of real estate projects, and 27,000 real estate agents are there. Number of complaints, if you see 12,000 complaints are lodged, out of that 8,200 are already resolved. As I said, a lot of credit goes to Maharera authority and to the honorable ex-chairman Mr. Gautam Chatterjee sir, who took lot of efforts with his team to make this Maharera what it is today. because from day one, from 1st of May, Maharera started accepting online applications. Not even a single physical paper you need to submit to Maharera authority. Everything is online. You scan all the documents, you upload all the documents, and you submit it to Maharera authority, make the payment. You will get the scrutiny. You can check if there are any queries. You can check it online. You can resolve those queries, and you will get the certificate online. You don't have to go to any table. This is a phenomenal work which the Maharashtra Authority has done, and because of this, you can see the number of registrations. It is 28,020, almost 50% of the total registrations which have happened across India. Now we talked about the problems the customers were facing, the government's role or initiative to take care or protect the interests of the customers, the provisions of the act which will safeguard the interests of the customers. What are the responsibilities of the developer? What are the penalties are there? But I also want to put a focus on some of the areas which needs to be a policymakers look into, because what happens, you cannot have only one side of the story. You need to listen to the both sides of the story. You cannot always complain like a promoter that he's doing this, he's dealing the project. So there are enough reason because I'm a developer, I can tell you that before getting into the picture, before getting into this business, the picture I had about the real estate, believe me, it is totally different when I actually get into the business. It is lot of hard work. And being a chartered accountant, if I was doing only my consultancy work as a chartered accountant, I would not have met so many people which I generally meet when I am as a developer. So even if you see the employment generation in the real estate, it happens at all stages. It happens at the managerial level, management stages. It happens at the skilled workers. It happens at the semi-skilled. It happens with the unskilled workers also. Like a lot of bigaris, we call it. A lot of bigaris, we don't even know to write and read. They also employed in real estate sector. So it's truly this sector gives an employment or a source of income to the bottom of the pyramid. So you need to also address to some of the issues which developers are facing. So I have addressed those issues in the next slide. Next, please. First is the land titling, because currently the land title is basically a chain of documents. There is no single document which gives you a conclusive title of the land. Like the Satbara is there, but it gives who is the occupant of the land, and whether he's a class 1 or a class 2 occupant. So there is no single agency, because in Maharashtra we have 3 different agencies. There is a revenue department which maintains the record of the land, which maintains the Satbara and the Khate book of the owner. Then there is a sub-registrar office which takes care of the registration of the documents, and there is a TLR office which takes care of the measurement of the land, like what are the size of the plots, everything. So there are 3 different agencies which take care of the 3 different. So you need to go to the Talati, we call it Talati, to take the Satbara. You need to go for search to sub-registrar office whether there are any encumbrances of the property. You need to go to the TLR office to get the maps, certified maps. So you need to go all these things, and none of them guarantees that this title of the land belongs to this person. So then there is no single agency. So government needs to guarantee the title of the land, because if I am risking my money on a project, and suppose tomorrow somebody comes and he claims now, no, I was the owner of this land and you have bought this land without my consent. So I have invested crores of rupees on this project, and tomorrow anybody can come and question my title. It risks the whole project. It risks even the buyer is at a risk because of this. So there needs to be a land titling policy of the government, and government should guarantee the title of the land. because we pay stamp duty. You take the stamp duty also for every transaction. So why can't government guarantee the title? Because out of the total litigations which are there, I believe 2/3 of the litigations are related to the land title. So if you have a land title in place, a lot of these litigations will go away. Then you need to revise the number of legislations governing the property transactions. So there is a Land Revenue Code, there is a Bombay Tenancy Act, then there's the Rent Control Act. There are so many regulations, right? And you need to. There is a ULC. Unfortunately, fortunately, ULC is repealed, but some of the questions, some of the provisions are still there. So you need to refer to all these acts, whether your land is violating any of the conditions mentioned in any of the acts. So you need to have a single act which will comprehensively cover all the provisions which are related to the real estate. Then the approval process. Believe me, this is very cumbersome process, like converting land and plan approvals. If I am buying a land, investing my money and going for plan approval, it takes hell of time. And I am investing my working capital. So there is a cost of money involved, the time value of money which is there. So if my project is delayed by 1 year, and if I bought a land at 10 crores, my land cost at the end of 1 year is not 10 crores. It is my 10 crore plus interest which I have paid, or which the opportunity of cost, if I have invested to somebody else, somewhere else, how much money I would have got, like let's say 12%, my land cost at the end of the 1 year will be 11.20 crores. So that cost is there. So there needs to be timeline for approval. There is a code for everywhere. There are provisions like you can deem approvals and everything, but it is currently there in the books. It is not been implemented, unfortunately. According to me, I am not putting, or as a representative of CREDAI Maharashtra, as my individual experience, it is not implemented in letter and spirit. Then again, real estate being a second biggest, largest employment provider, plus it provides employment to the bottom of the pyramid. Still, it is not got the industry status. So that is again a pinching point. Like if the new generation wants to come into this field, some of these things need to be addressed carefully. If you want to get new brain, fresh blood into this innovative ideas, people who have innovative ideas, they want to come into this sector. Some of these things need to be addressed. Then there is a multiplicity of taxation. You pay stamp duty also on the agreement, and you pay GST also on the agreement. So it increases the transaction cost. So you don't, when you consider the revenue of the government, it ultimately the developer does not pay this. It is the buyer who pays this. So stamp duty and GST goes from the buyer's pocket. So there is a multiplicity of taxation which needs to be reduced. Then lending is a very difficult task. Unless you are a AAA plus grade developer, you getting a lending from a nationalized banks is a very difficult task. So invariably you go for an investor who asks for 24% of interest, or you go for a cooperative housing, cooperative banks, almost 15 to 16%. But if you compare it with the nationalized banks, which they lend to some of the developers, they lend it at 10.5%. So where is 24% and where is 10.5%? So every cost which is added to the cost of the project, remember it will be recovered from some or other way. Because developer will have some margin over and above the cost. So though he will take a hit of some of the cost, but he will not do it at a loss. So that needs to be, and even the lending which is done, it's a very higher cost. Then FDI, currently the FDI is the cheapest source, which I believe, because you get the LIBOR plus 2.5%, which is almost 3.5 to 5%. But the conditions which are imposed are only and only a bigger and biggest player can get the FDI. But if you see the number of developers like CREDAI, Pan India, we have 20,000 odd members. And if you segregate 20%, which are the top notch builders, rest 80% are comes from the tier 2, tier 3 cities, almost 16,000. So for them to get an FDI is a dream. So we need to make some provisions where small projects or small developers can also go in for raising of funds under the FDI. Then in some of the areas, there are land development authorities, which are the government entities. They work as a monopolies. They don't sell land. They develop in a phased manner, and they auction it. So ultimately, what happens? The auction, the highest bidder gets the price, the land. So the bidder will not pay out of his pocket. He ultimately will build in the product cost. So these kind of a monopolistic practices needs to stop. The land, wherever there is a development authorities are developing lands, the land parcel should be not should be only on the basis of the highest bidder. There should be other aspects also which needs to looked into. So these are the issues which, as a developer, I think the policymakers need to look into. Next slide, please. Then what are the opportunities for the professionals? There were opportunities, but there are opportunities which are coming because a lot of transparency, as we discussed, a lot of transparency which is coming into picture, and a lot of people will get very good scope in this field because if I have to be compliant, I need to follow certain procedures. I need to follow certain standards. So if I need to follow certain standards, I cannot run the show on my own. I need to take the help of some of the professionals, good people who can help me run the show. So what are the opportunities? Like an engineer can be a BOQ, an estimate consultant. There is an opportunity because you need to have a estimate in place before registration of your project. So there is a huge opportunity for BOQs and estimation, which will ultimately even help in implementation. You can do a cost analysis, you can do rate analysis, you can do at the end of the project or in the mid of the project, you can do deviation analysis. This much of the quantity I had estimated and how much I have taken. So that is BOK and estimation consultation work opportunities are there. Then certification, because a lot of certification is required now. You can be a person who can give certificates based on the requirements of the client and your technical knowledge. Then there could be a third-party quality monitoring agencies who can go and see that, check at the site whether because if I do my work at 100% of 99% of my capacity and with due diligence, I should not be bothered about the 5 years defect liability period. So if I hire a third party quality monitoring agency who will independently appraise my project, my work going on, and they can recommend some changes, they can recommend me how to improve my quality. So it will help me in the long run. Then there could be a good scope for EPC contractors. So you can form a team and get into actual contracting work. There is a very good scope for testing laboratories because now, because of after the quality assurance, you need to test all the products which are coming at the site. So there is a good scope for testing labs or at least testing equipments. Then there is a training. You can start a training facility or a training institute, or you can go and do online training facility at site, how to improve work, how to save time. Then there could be also, there is a lot of opportunity for innovative technologies like precast, automation, cost saving, sustainability. So all these things are very attractive fields for the professionals where they can innovate, or they in case they want to get into the sector as a professionals, they can look for these other areas where there are opportunities. Next, please. So I will end my presentation with a quote from Charles Darwin. I'm sure all of you must be knowing Charles Darwin, who basically studied evolution of human beings and the species. So in his studies, what he observed is that it is not the strongest of the species that those survived, nor the most intelligent species. It is the species. It is one who was most adaptable to change, who changed according to the surroundings. Those species survived in the evolution process. So after RERA coming into picture, GST coming into picture, and those other regulations coming into picture, the people who can adapt to those changes, I'm sure those will survive and thrive. But who cannot or who don't want to, unfortunately, they will be. I don't want to all my colleagues to stop their business. I want everybody to flourish. But unfortunately, if you don't want to follow, you will have to go out of the business. So, with this note, I would like to thank Parijat sir for inviting me to this session. Sorry for the initial hiccups which happened, and we interacted. We started interaction, and again there was some technical glitches. But I'm sure I give justice to what the topic was given to me, and I I I give you the overview of the RERA Act. It is impossible to walk you through all the 92 sections, but some of the main important points, which as a academician or as a professional, if somebody asks you, you should be knowing those points which I have mentioned or covered in those in my presentation. And I thank Cyber Institute also for inviting me, and we can take questions. Yeah, thank you so much.
Only thing is that we are quite late in time because the next one will be.
Yeah. So we are very. I'm sure we're overrunning our time. And if there are one or two questions, sir, with your permission, we could take one or two questions. So participants, I request you to either ask the questions by unmuting yourself, or you could put it in the chat box. There are any questions? Okay, there is one question. Who's the prime responsibility in RERA Act, promoter or developer? I think he wants to ask is, whose is this the prime responsibility?
Basically, the promoter is the one who is the developer. So I'm not getting the question, but I will just try to explain. Like the promoter, the definition is given. The developer is a promoter. So whatever the responsibilities of the promoter given in RERA are the responsibility of the developer, because developer is a promoter. Now there could be two kinds of promoters. Like with the development agreement, there could be a landowner promoter and there could be a developer promoter. But in Maharera, they have given clarifications that landowner promoter's responsibility will be only restricted to the responsibilities are given on him under the agreement, his agreement with the developer. So if the developer promoter is taking all the responsibilities of the project related to execution of the project, the customer bookings and everything, completion of the project, defect liability, everything is on the promoter developer, then developer is responsible, landowner promoter will not be responsible.
So there's one more question. How to establish a private testing labs? If I do not know it, that comes under your jurisdiction.
I am a chartered accountant. I am not a technical person, so you will have to maybe do a research, or you can go and study the existing labs in your area. You can just go randomly and check. Even many engineering institutes, they have their in-house labs. Like Shivaji University in Kolhapur, we have their own testing lab. So you can go there and check what are the equipments or they have, and take a uh, take some idea from them. In case you want to start a lab, what are the equipment you should have? So that is the only thing I can recommend you. Because being a non-technical, I cannot go into more details.
The participants have asked
Sir, good afternoon.
Sir.
your mobile
Sir, this is Murli from Bangalore. So I have one question.
Yes.
Sir, regarding this plotted development, so how RERA is helping? Because as you said, 70% of the total cost will be deposited in bank.
Right.
How this land value is considered and deposited in bank account?
No, actually, what happens, like there are two things. One, if the land is bought by the promoter, and if the land is, I will give what is the position in Maharashtra, because I don't know the rules in Karnataka, but I will give you the what is the current situation in Maharashtra. Maharashtra, if the land is purchased by the developer, he can basically take that cost as an incurred cost. If he is taken, it is ancestral land, he can take its government valuation as on the date of the registration with the RERA authority, the valuation of the land, and then he can put that land as a cost which is incurred. Now, in plotting, what happens? Plotting in Maharashtra, the layout is done, the infrastructure is developed, the infrastructure is completed, the final layout order is taken from the authority, and after the infrastructure and everything is ready, then only plots are sold. So there, as good as the project is complete here. So in Maharera, some of the cases, they have given the orders that in such cases, if the plot and everything is ready, the plots are segregated, it has its own property card, the infrastructure is developed, the common areas are handed over to the municipal corporation, then you don't need to register such kind of a projects.
Thank you, sir. Like, just added to that question, like
Yeah.
when we talk about value of a land, do we consider market value or guideline value?
So guideline value, market value we cannot take because it has no base. Guideline value, at least the government gives a guideline of the value. So you need to take a guideline value.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, participants. I'm taking the last question now because we are already running short of time. In fact, we have overshot our time. So there is a question which says whether state governments are strictly following the guidelines of RERA when it comes to extending the metropolitan city limits and smart city policies like constructing bus terminals or metro stations.
So basically, RERA authority does not go into infrastructure building. It is only concerned about the buyer and promoter, like promoter and allottees and agents. So it has no role basically in developing the infrastructure. Obviously, it can recommend to the government, but no complaints can be filed with the RERA authority because the metro station has not come. So RERA authority will entertain only those points or those problems which are mentioned under section 11 to 18. As I said, the promoter's responsibilities. If there are any lacunas or there are any defaults from the promoters on those side, then only those kind of a complaints the regulatory authority will entertain. Otherwise, if there is something which is out of the jurisdiction of the RERA authority, they will not entertain. In fact, even the land title matters. If there is a dispute between owners regarding land, such kind of matters also RERA authority does not entertain. They ask them to go to the civil court because RERA authority only is concerned about the interest of the buyer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir, I had a question, sir. Previously, I asked: is the amalgamation of two plots possible under RERA, sir?
So as I again said, amalgamation, subdivision, everything is it comes under the jurisdiction of the local planning authority.
Okay.
RERA will only be checking whether that amalgamation, whether your plans are sanctioned and whether you are selling according to the sanction plan and specifications.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that inspiring session. In fact, your last slide about Charles Darwin and adaptability brought to my mind another quote which says that the only constant in life is change. And RERA is very much an example of that change that we are all experiencing. I really thank sir for going through this entire RERA Act and its provisions, all the important sections of the provisions, the responsibilities of the promoters, the responsibilities of the allottees, and then he also gave us a sort of a direction as to what should be the policy decision-making framework which the authorities concerned should think about when we are making such comprehensive changes in our laws. So it was, I'm sure, indeed a very enlightening session, threw light on a lot of issues, and it was in a very short capsule because it's very difficult, when you have 92 provisions to explain gist of it, the crux of it in such a short time period was really wonderful, sir. So on behalf of Cyber, I thank you for accepting our invitation and sharing your knowledge with our participants. With this, I declare that the first session is closed and we will log in again after 10 minutes. So we'll start off with the second session of the day with a short break of 10 minutes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.